Hey everybody and welcome to Forced Fandom, the show where one person tries to force another to like the things that they love. I am here this whole season with journalist Emily Bamforth. Hi Emily.
Hi, you say that like it's a bad thing.
No, it's not. I love doing this podcast with you. And this season, I am forcing Emily to watch the first season of 90s crime drama Twin Peaks. If you haven't watched this show before, we are currently on episode 3, which is titled Zen or the Skill to Catch a Killer. If you are caught up or you've watched Twin Peaks before, good for you. If not, you should probably stop now because it's about to get real spoilery. So, Emily, earlier today, you Facebook messaged me and said, I need to talk about this right now. And I was like, no, you have to wait until the podcast. So, what was it about Twin Peaks that you just had to talk to me about at 3 o'clock this afternoon?
You wouldn't even let me express my concerns in an emoji,
No, I
which
wouldn't, because
really,
I want to get
if
your raw reaction here.
Taylor, this is not going well.
What do you
This is,
mean?
I don't have mixed emotions anymore. They're just bad.
Really?
Yeah, this episode, I felt like it was a make or break. Like, I really do feel like it was a make or break. And it wasn't just me. I've been reading these recaps on the Nerdist.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really great, and they're not too spoilery. I don't think I've hit anything that's super spoilery. And
Are they
I
episode by episode recaps?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I read the episode 3 one, and it was like this was a make or break for a lot of fans because it brought in a lot of like new elements, and I can't say that I was entirely a fan of those new elements.
Interesting. So, what new elements were you not a fan of, and which ones were you a fan of?
Surrealism, that whole thing, the whole surrealist bit. It's Agent Cooper works very well when he is a character that is grounded in reality. He's a caricature of a person that you can meet in real life. You think of him as your neighborhood friendly FBI agent. It's not too far from the realm of possibility. He's just quirky. But in this one, he has that whole sequence where he's throwing stones at the bottle because it came to him in a dream. And this isn't the first time that surreal elements have come through on this show, with Laura, Mrs. Palmer's vision and stuff like that. And even then, I thought it was a little weird because so much of the show is grounded in reality, and so much of it is I could walk down the street and find that kind of person, or like this is an exaggerated person of someone that I know. Or on the other hand, this is a person that I would never find in real life, but it's kind of like used as a foil. But in this case, the surreal elements in Cooper's investigation, the dreams coming in, the random red room scene, I wasn't a fan.
So that's really when I wanted to do Forced Fandom about Twin Peaks. It was this whole element that I was really interested to see how people react to, because you're
Hmm.
right. This is the make or break.
Yeah.
In our Twin Peaks, a lot of times people will post and say, "I watched the pilot and I don't think I get this show." And the like top comment every time is, "Watch up to episode 3, and if you don't like episode 3, stop watching the show." So,
But I won't stop
but I'm
watching
making
it,
you
so.
watch it because I want to see how this first season pans out for you. So good. You touched on some things that I want to expand on, because they are major things and they are really big stylistic shifts that happen in this episode. So let's talk about the bottle sequence.
Hmm.
The first time we see our law enforcement friends in this episode, they are in the woods with a table full of donuts, which I always just find to be like hilarious.
Hmm.
And Cooper has written the names of everyone in town whose name has a J in it on a board based on
Hmm.
Laura's diary entry. And he's got a milk bottle on a stump, and he talks about Tibet and the Dalai Lama and dreams. And then he says, whoever, I want Harry to say the names, and I'm going to throw a stone after each name. And whoever breaks the bottle is the person we need to investigate.
But he doesn't necessarily even say that. He just says you got to put a check mark next to
Oh
their
yeah, he
name.
just says you have to put a check mark. It's implied.
Yeah.
So
directly implied.
I mean, we can talk about each and every one of those names.
Do we need to? I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was a really good way because this used to be like a week by week show. I thought it was a really good way to map out the characters or map out the
so
possibilities.
Harry explains, like, Norma Jennings, Laura's boss at the diner. And they show a little flashback to show you who that person is, which I think is very helpful.
No, I definitely like that, and I definitely like that that was built in there pretty much for fans, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was built in there for fans. The fact that Dr. Jacoby he hits the bottle, but it doesn't break. I think that's really important because it's like on the way. And we already knew that from the end of the last episode he has something to do with this. He's Laura's psychiatrist. Obviously, you're going to have to talk to him, which patient doctor confidentiality is going to be a problem.
Well, there's a level of patient-doctor confidentiality that gets, like, that you can remove in the case of a murder, but you can't remove all of it. So yeah, it's definitely problematic, but I don't think that's something this show is concerned with.
In case you were wondering, also, this episode of Forced Fandom happened right after Kanye West tweeted the new name of his album, and people keep Facebook messaging me about it.
Yeah, I tweeted about it right before we went live, but that's good subject matter for our other podcast.
Yeah, but shout out, this was the moment that we knew the life of Pablo existed.
True facts.
That's a really important thing.
Okay, so we talked about Dr. Jacoby. Do you remember what other names were important on that list?
One-Eyed Jack, because it wasn't a person, it was a place.
Mm-hmm.
That was explored at the beginning of the episode. And if Laura turns out to be a prostitute, this is going to be exactly like The Killing.
To be fair, The Killing is highly influenced by this show.
Yeah.
So if that does turn out, it's probably The Killing copying Twin Peaks.
Well, I mean, sequentially, too.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't saying it that way. Yeah, that one was really important. Obviously, Leo was very important, and we already know Leo's incredibly shady and a wife abuser, and all those other good things. So.
And we have a fun little scene with Leo and Mike and Bobby in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Leo's a nut.
Pretty much. He's got a gun, and he knows how to use it.
He does indeed. And he's got a ponytail, and there's a lot going on there.
He also needs a new pair of shoes.
So he does. And a clean house. Man needs a clean house.
Yes. There's not a whole lot to talk about with that scene other than just the weird shit that Leo says.
Yeah, Leo is like on drugs. Actually, he might be.
I mean, he's dealing drugs, so there's a very high possibility that he's on them too.
Yeah, valid.
So stepping away from surrealism, well, kind of stepping away from surrealism, maybe?
I feel in this situation we can ever step away from surrealism.
So there's this really strange conversation between Donna and Audrey at the diner.
Yeah, which apparently established Audrey as a sex symbol, so that's interesting.
Yeah, because she gets to flirt with her coffee and dance around the diner.
I like that was sexy dancing back in the 90s. Like, in the meantime, like, look on TV today, but in the 90s, like, swaying around a diner was like, that woman is loose.
And remember that this is David Lynch, and so he probably told her to sway around the diner as opposed to do a striptease.
I mean, they probably weren't going to do that anyway, because that's not her vibe, but yeah, that was just really weird.
Agent Cooper loves coffee.
I'm gonna just start saying that to people. When I have a crush on someone, I'm gonna be like, that guy just loves his coffee. And they're gonna be like, what are you talking about?
Agent Cooper likes his coffee black. I'm always tickled by that scene because it's like the only time that the teenage characters act like teenagers.
Did we? Did I? I don't remember acting like that as a teenager, but no, I agree. Like you don't get to see them be youthful very often because they're always trying to act a little bit older than they are. And Donna especially has to grow up very, very quickly because of the whole Laura situation. So it felt kind of pointless, as many of the scenes do sometimes, but I feel like it had a lot to do with like character development and all that jazz. I still don't see the point of Audrey.
Well, she's Agent Cooper's love interest.
Is she really? Isn't she like 12?
I mean, I don't know if it's reciprocated, but she's definitely interested in Agent Cooper.
That doesn't mean that that means that he is her love interest.
I guess that's true. I guess I worded that sentence improperly. But speaking of scenes that feel potentially pointless, how much did you love Nadine's silent drape runners?
That saved their marriage. Thank God. Thank God. Poor Ed.
You were really afraid that Ed was going to get divorced.
Oh yeah. I mean, he stepped on her silent runners. Like I would divorce him. Nadine is played so well. Like just as a random character that pretty much at this point has nothing to do with anything except to be like, "Oh, that's why Ed's cheating on his wife." Like she's played so well. I just want to know why she can bend an exercise machine backwards and how she lost her eye. I just want to know everything about her.
Nadine is so strange. I love her, but she's so strange.
She's so weird. Log Lady didn't come back this episode.
No, Log Lady's not in this one. You spent a lot more time with the core cast in this episode and a lot less time with, like, peripheral people.
Are you saying that Log Lady isn't part of the core cast?
I mean, she's important to the plot, but she's not, like, a series regular. If you're familiar with that term.
She's my number one fave.
That's fair. That's fair. Donna and James are in love, and they couldn't say it while Laura was alive, but now they can, and they really love each other.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. I'm so happy for them. Not really. I don't think it's compelling. I don't think that it's a great love story. Maybe teenagers in the 90s did. Maybe this was how all love is in the 90s, but they are pieces of paper to me. It's like watching paint dry.
Wow. You're going to get the Reddits real fired up with that.
Yeah, well, come at me, bro.
We love you, r/Twin Peaks and r/The Black Lodge, but...
No, we do. We truly love you. You are one of the nicest Reddit communities I've ever laid eyes on.
And they're so cool about not spoiling you.
Yeah, I agree. Good job.
We'll see how this episode's discussion goes. So I'm looking through my notes to see if anything else important happened.
Before the
ending, yeah. So, back at the sheriff's office, Hawk found a bloody rag on the train tracks, which they're just about to investigate when Albert and his team are here.
Did that guy, who's the main cop again? What's his name?
Harry.
Did he like call him gay or something like that? Was that like a hate thing tossed at him?
He said, people who come in my station and talk like that will find their teeth on the pavement 2 blocks up on Queer Street.
So it was the 90s, and yes.
Yes. The short answer is yes.
The 90s.
But yeah, so Albert is here. He's going to investigate the body and stuff.
That's neat. I like him. He seems like he's going to get down to business.
He sure is.
He's gonna discover some new evidence.
Have you ever watched Arrested Development?
Yeah.
He reminds me of the lawyer on that show who's very professional.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
I am very professional. I will duck behind this desk. He reminds me of that guy.
Yes, that's valid.
So that happens. There's a really awkward scene between the Packard family involving Boots and Josie and just domestic stuff.
I was like, cool, guys.
But then Josie gets the key to the safe.
Hashtag mill politics. It's coming around the bend. I want to know what's in the budgets.
Do you actually, or are you just being facetious?
Actually, I do kind of want to know why there are two budgets.
I
Or not budgets, like ledgers.
I knew you would care about mill politics. I knew it.
It's ingrained. It's ingrained in my soul to care about documents that no one else cares about.
All right, so before we get to the elephant in the room, we didn't actually talk about the beginning of this episode, and I do want to bring that up.
That was weird.
Yeah, so we have this awkward dinner with the Horn family, and then Benjamin Horn's brother shows up with baguettes with brie and cheese. In my notes, I have pure cholesterol. Am I right?
Am I right?
And then
If there was a way to die, it would be that.
yeah, and then family dinner is super awkward, so they decide to leave and go to One-Eyed Jack's, where they drink some scotch and then flip a coin on sleeping with a prostitute.
It looks very young. It looks a little too young.
She's the new girl.
It was very young.
Yeah, she also doesn't get a name. She's just the new girl.
Did she ever show up again?
I don't think so.
What was even the point? Just to show that One-Eyed Jack's was a brothel?
Yeah, a sleazy Canadian brothel. Pretty much. It's also a casino. I don't know if
No,
how well they reference that, yeah.
I got that with, the garb.
Yeah.
Not a very busy casino.
Well, they're in the off-limits brothel section. I never know how legal the brothel part of One-Eyed Jack's is. I'm sure people on Reddit will explain this to me, but it seems, based on my understanding of the show, that One-Eyed Jack's is technically a casino that just happens to have a brothel that's operating under the radar.
I don't know, it's Canada.
Yeah, I don't know what the prostitution laws are in Canada. I have no idea.
So Reddit, especially Canadian people, let us know if you haven't already turned this off, because I told you to come at me.
Yeah, but seriously, I actually want to know that, because it's a minor point, but I'm just curious, because One-Eyed Jack's, are they allowed to do that? I don't know if they're allowed to do that. Anyway, I digress.
It's morally sketchy in any case.
Yeah. Oh, and there's one other thing we have to talk about before we get to the ending.
Is it the blood on the picture?
Yes, it's the blood on the picture scene.
That made me sad.
Yeah, so we're back at home with the Palmers, and Mr. Palmer puts on a record and starts dancing with a framed picture of Laura, and then his wife yells at him, and he breaks the photo, and there's blood on the photo.
Blood on the photo. Blood on the photo.
I don't know. So that made you sad? Just made you feel what they're going through?
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, in the midst of all this, sometimes you forget that
you forget that, Laura's parents are there, and they're very upset?
Yeah, he wanted to dance with his daughter. He'll never get to dance with her again.
Yeah.
And now he has a bloody photo of her, which is very concerning for everyone involved. And they're all going to have to get tetanus shots, which, can't be easy in Twin Peaks. That'll take 2 weeks. Mrs. Palmer, I love her, but just screaming what is going on over and over and over again. I would like to count the times that Mrs. Palmer is talking that isn't screaming.
It would be a very low number.
I think it's twice at this point.
Yeah, she just kind of does a lot of screaming.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but
yeah.
No need to talk in all caps, bro.
Thanks, the internet. All right, so let's deal with, now that we've talked for 20 minutes, let's deal with what is generally considered to be the most important part of this episode. Agent Cooper goes to sleep. Which in any other show would be oh, okay, time lapse. But in Twin Peaks, There is I didn't time it, but I think it's something like a 6 minute long dream sequence. It's a very long dream sequence. Let's get your thoughts on Cooper's dream sequence.
Bleh. It was terrible. Like, it's just taking everything that I knew about Twin Peaks, every single like tonal element, everything, and it just changed it. It was just surrealist and weird. And why was there a dwarf there? And why? Oh, sorry, that is not the correct term. But maybe it is. I don't know. In any case, there was one there. And why is he talking like that? And also, why is a woman like Laura there? And why does she kiss Agent Cooper? What's the point of that? And also, what did she whisper in his ear? No way he knew who murdered. No way. Oh, but there was that guy there named Bob. He seems important.
And there was another guy there too. Do you remember his name?
Nope. But I remember Bob because Bob was the man behind the couch.
Yes. Okay. So the other man's name is Mike.
Oh, good. I would have. What a unique name. I never would have remembered.
And did you notice anything weird about Mike?
He had one arm.
Yeah, which is important because
They were talking about that one-armed guy.
And did you notice the one-armed guy in the last episode?
No.
So last episode of the podcast, I mentioned that I saw something that I had never seen before. It was the one-armed man being at the hospital. I had forgotten entirely that the one-armed man shows up that early.
Yeah, there's a one-armed man.
His name is Mike.
Yeah, cool. Also, when I was reading the whole thing, Bob's name is in all caps.
Yes, Bob's name is always in all caps.
Why?
We think it's an acronym.
Mm.
It's really not explained.
Bob.
Twin Peaks lore people are going to say that in the book, which, like, Mark Frost,
Twin Peaks lore.
Mark Frost, one of the two people who are responsible for the show, Mark Frost and David Lynch, he wrote Laura Palmer's diary out, like the diary that's in the show.
Yeah.
He actually wrote it out, and he always writes Bob in all uppercase. And I think at one point he says that it stands for Beware of Bob.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really plot important. Basically, Bob is Bob.
So Bob's there, and now Agent Cooper thinks he knows who killed Laura Palmer. It's probably that Bob guy.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen him before except behind that guy, behind the Palmer's couch, in that vision again. So that's interesting. But here's the thing: I watched this episode at like midnight 30 last night.
Which is arguably the best way to watch this for the first time.
And I couldn't connect with it. It's not my preferred mode of storytelling, but I did dig his bedhead.
Oh, Cooper's bedhead?
It's the best thing about that entire episode.
So, I mean, that's a thing you can say, I guess. It is really good bedhead. So
that is when Taylor's like,
yeah, I mean, this is Force Fandom, and so for me, like, yeah, his bedhead is not the important part of that, but I understand. So you touched on pretty much everything that happened in the dream. You actually remember it really well.
Yeah, because it was really weird.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? How are you approaching this moving forward?
My feelings?
Yeah, your feelings.
I have so many feelings. Remember last episode when I didn't have any feelings?
Now you have all the feelings?
I do, but they're not good. That's the problem. I did read that David Lynch got the idea for this scene when he touched the hood of a car and it was too hot, and it came to him in a flash, according to the Nerdist. You should reference this in the show notes down below.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write them. But no, I thought that was super interesting. I think David Lynch is incredibly interesting. I'd like to talk to him for like ever. But like, and I can see why people like it. I really can. I understand that it takes a very certain type of person to like this kind of surrealist thing, but like it's just very hard for me because this is definitely not the type of storytelling I'm used to. And
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely not the type that if I wasn't watching this for this, I think I'd stop
Yeah.
like right. Um, but I can't. So we're gonna keep going. And maybe my mind will be changed. I know I won't find out who actually killed Laura this season.
But it'll be
So
interesting when we get to the end of episode 8 if you decide that you want to figure out. But that's a ways down
yeah.
the road. I mean, we have essentially a little less than 6 more hours of Twin Peaks before you have to make that decision, so.
And my response to that was gently leaning out of frame.
I know. So my only other question for you, and this is just kind of to like, I guess, assuage me maybe, is I
Yeah,
know.
let's get your feelings here.
Yeah.
Are
So
you disappointed that I don't like it?
no. I think you give very good reasons for not liking it. My question is, did this dream sequence make you uncomfortable? Because every time I watch this sequence, I feel like deeply uncomfortable. And I know a lot of people who are into this show feel the same
Yes.
way. Okay. So you came out of it with just like some level of discomfort.
I definitely think it made me feel uncomfortable. And I feel a lot of this show makes me uncomfortable, but it's different though. It's different from like the Leo and Shelley scene, right? That
Mm-hmm.
made me incredibly uncomfortable. It's different than a lot of the tension that's happening. That makes me really uncomfortable. It's making me uncomfortable because I don't understand it and I don't think I like it.
Interesting.
I don't mind being uncomfortable. And I don't mind a show making me feel uncomfortable, but it has to be for the right reasons. And I don't know if this is the right reason.
I think that's part of the reason why I was so interested to have you watch this, is that this is a show that does not like sugarcoat the fact that it's going to make you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's very risky and it does things the way it wants to do them, even if that's going to completely alienate people. And so, I don't know.
Which is funny because it didn't. A lot of mainstream people were into the show.
They were at the time,
And
yeah. But you notice that since then, like, I have never seen a dream sequence like this in any other show.
no, it seems like whoever wrote it was on drugs.
I mean, I don't think David Lynch does drugs. He's really
No,
into like meditation and stuff. I don't think he's into drugs. I don't know.
his drug is like his imagination.
Pretty much. I can't imagine what a David Lynch drug trip would be like. Let's put it that way. If he does drugs, I don't want to see what goes on inside his brain when he does.
That's probably why he wouldn't do drugs.
I would think so. So yeah, any final thoughts on this episode before we sign off?
Tell me it's gonna get better.
I will tell you that it's going to get more suspenseful.
That's not an answer. Are there going to be a ton of more dream sequences like this?
There are going to be more dream sequences. I don't know if I would say there's going to be a ton of them.
I made some pretty gifable faces in this particular episode.
I would have loved to have a live camera running, watching your facial expressions as the show went.
I'm pretty sure it went like that.
Fair enough. Well, if the people want to yell at you for hating on characters or discuss the anatomy of dreams with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Emily M. Bamforth. Please don't yell at me. That's not nice.
I mean, I won't dissuade them from yelling at you. Just don't send her spoilers, because that's mean.
Yeah, yell at me all you want. That's fine. But spoilers? No.
No.
Definitely.
So if you want to follow me, you can find me on the Twitters at TCOLMSTEAD. You will find new episodes of Force Fandom pretty much every Monday. Sorry for the delay this week, but that's going to get better. We also poke around in r/Twin Peaks and r/The Black Lodge, so if you want to discuss this episode with us in a spoiler-free way, that's a good place to do it. Other than that, until next week, we will be watching Twin Peaks, whether Emily wants to or not.